Hello everyone, I'm Matt, this is Model Minutes, and join me on the workbench today as I do a quick introduction to dry brushing. So dry brushing is a technique whereby you're effectively highlighting details that exist on your plastic parts from your model kits. And this is a super simple look at how to do this technique. So I've got here is a couple of different bits. These are like leftovers from other kits, so figures, tracks, wheels, that sort of thing. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk to you through my process. So what you're going to need is some suitable paint. I'm going to use an acrylic. This is a #1 grey primer, but as a small point, you can actually use any color that you like to do dry brushing, depending on the effect that you're trying to get. And this is just to show you how to do it really. So make sure your paint is properly mixed and ready to go. And then we get that one open, and you'll need like a suitable brush. Now, normally dry brushing can be done. There are like special brushes you can get for it, but I tend to just use something a bit old and a bit tatty. So like you might have had a brush which you've been using for years, and it's no longer quite fit for its original purpose. Keep it, because you can use it for dry brushing. What you're going to do, a little bit of paint. You don't need a lot, just a little bit. And then you take a paper towel and you remove it. Now this seems counterintuitive. Why would you put paint on your brush and then remove it? Well, because we're getting to that point whereby this is called dry brushing. So now, effectively, this paintbrush feels dry. It technically isn't. There is a small amount of paint on there, but it is primarily a dry brush. And what's going to happen is when we start to just gently go over the top of these figures, is that it's going to start picking up the paint on the highlighted details. All the stuff in the recessed areas is going to be left in shadow and shade. And that's what this does. Dry brushing adds extra sort of dimension to your painted parts. And the point here about removing, you need to remove as much of the excess paint as possible, because if you don't, you're just basically painting on the top, and it kind of doesn't have the same effect. So that's the first one. Very quick, very easy to do. I've got here some landing doors from an aircraft, or landing gear bay doors. And again, we're just going to do it the same thing with my dry brush. See, now I'm not quite getting enough there. Not quite the effect that I'm looking for. So I'm going to add a bit more paint onto there. But then again, work it into the bristles and then remove it so it feels dry. And then try again. And we'll see, there we go. And you can do this in different directions as well, depending on the effect that you're looking for. If you feel like there's light perhaps on your model hitting it in a certain direction, you can focus more in one way, whereas in the other way might bring out like different details. So that's come out, and you can now see it's added an extra bit of contrast. As mentioned, it doesn't have to be just done with a grey. You could use a brown, blue, whatever. Say for example you'd painted your figures already and they had a base colour of green. You could use a lighter green on the top. It would add an extra highlight. What I'm going to do is I've got a couple more bits. I've got this polished metal. I'm just going to do the last couple of ones with this. So same as before, bit of paint on my brush and then remove it again, so it just doesn't feel like there's anything there. So technically this is an airbrush ready paint, but it kind of works the same. It works well enough. I find the metallics are quite good for that. These are sprockets from a tank, and you can just see as I go over the top that the metallic paint catches on the edges of the parts and the raised details, which is really quite nice. It's a very subtle effect. Obviously, if you're not happy, you can add more and you can build upon the effect as much as you like. So we'll see if we can add a bit more on the bottom ones. See, that's probably too much paint on there now. So there's too much paint on that one, and all I've effectively done is started painting the part. So that is not the effect that I'm looking for. So I would remove more paint off of my brush. If this happens here, you could try and remove the excess or paint back over the top in your original colour and then try again. There you go, that's a bit better. A little bit heavier of an effect, but not bad. There we go. And then finally, the last one I've got here is some wheels. And I wonder what colour I should use on that. I wonder if I can find something interesting on my workbench, just for fun. I've got an orange here. What do we reckon? A gloss orange? Let's see if this does anything, just for fun. I know it's on a black base. Realistically, If I was going to do a bright colour like an orange, I would do it on a lighter colour base. But we'll see what happens. Yes, I haven't washed my brush off or anything. I'm just leaving it in its dry kind of state. But I will wash it off later. Let's just see what happens. I don't think we'll get much with this because it's a very light colour on a very dark background. There is something, but it's probably more like just the silver from before. But this is the thing with modelling, isn't it? Whilst I might have a technique that works for me, and I find it works really well, you may be able to find a technique that works for you just by experimenting. But generally, that is dry brushing in a nutshell. This is a technique that I use quite often in my projects. I use it to pick out details in cockpits and things, and engines is another example, somewhere where you might not feel that you want to go and spend a lot of time detailing it, so you paint it in a base colour and then do some dry brushing over the top just to highlight the details. And that is pretty much it. Do let me know down in the comments what you think of this technique and if there's something you would be interested in trying. And if you've been dry brushing for a while, why not share some of your hints and tips with the rest of the community? As always, a quick shout out to my Model Club members for the extra support they give the channel. Massive thanks to these guys on screen. And if you'd like to join them or support the channel in other ways, check out the links in the description. The best way to support the channel though is by subscribing with notifications turned on so you never miss a modelling video. Finally though, last thing to say is a massive thank you to you for watching this one, and I'll see you on the workbench again next time.